Hey everyone, the name's Erik Thor, and in this video let's talk about Carl Jung. And what type was Carl Jung? Well, the general consensus is INFJ, but in Carl Jung's own perspective, if you ask him, he would say he is first and foremost an introvert intuitive and an introverted thinking type. And if you look at and read his arguments about the psychological types, he generally has a very critical stance of extroverted feeling. He, as an INFJ, is taking a step here to question extroverted feeling. He says it's predominantly female, that most of them are women or all of them exclusively. And that in general extroverted feelers are cohesive and that they go with whatever society wants, and that they are usually thinking that their emotions are around them in their environment, that they can't labor with hypothetical facts, and that they can't think logically about things that they don't feel to be true. So they will discard knowledge and logic if they don't think or feel that way or want it to be true. So this adds questions. Some people say INTP for the Carl Jung, other people say ISTP, INFP. I see a lot of arguments out there. But I will try to answer why an INFJ is so critical of extroverted feeling. If Carl Jung is an INFJ, how can he be so critical of extroverted feeling? I will say this. Well, first of all, he's not exactly critical of it. He is distanced to it. He doesn't make an effort to understand it, and he feels like it's something a part of himself. And a few reasons for this is he could of course be blind to his own extroverted feeling, and a second opinion is he's not an ENFJ of course, so extroverted feeling is his second function and introverted thinking is his third function. So he was only slightly off, or was he? That's the thing. I don't think he was off. I think that in general INFJs can have and experience themselves more consciously as introverted thinkers, and the core reason for this is because for an INFJ, extroverted feeling is something aspirational. An INFJ is somebody who experiences themselves as different from society, but who desire to become normal. Their desire is for other people to understand them. Their desire is to convey and communicate and make other people see who they are. The desire for an INFJ is to find their place in the world, to take a place in the social world, in the culture. But INFJ is somebody who finds themselves sometimes a little aloof because of their mind, their thoughts, their associations, their quirkiness. So no matter how much they try to fit in general, their intuition is always so much faster. Introvert intuition is, according to Carl Jung, something so crazy and wacky that it's the type of a crank or an artist, sometimes a wildly incomprehensible crank, basically, who makes no sense whatsoever. And this is of course because for him intuition is unconscious. Now, INFJs do have a lot of introverted thinking, and it's arguable that Carl Jung, as a predominantly introverted type that saw his own subjective self, that saw himself from this critical perspective, he was always very self-critical, which is very typical of an INFJ. He was always questioning himself. He was always treating himself harshly. And I find that this is pretty typical for auxiliary feelers. Auxiliary feelers, INFJs at least, find themselves noticing how outside they are from society. They are always wildly aware that they are outsiders. And they are aware of the fact that if they don't make an effort, if they don't focus, they're going to be completely shut out from society. They're going to be isolated, they're gonna become thrown out of the herd. And so the INFJ feels this desire to fit in, or at least to be a part of the world somehow, to find some way to be of help or aid of the world. And that desire is the INFJ's extroverted feeling. The INFJ desires the extroverted feeling function or aspires towards it, but does not possess it. The INFJ will never become the ideal of an extroverted feeler. The INFJ will only aspire towards it. And this aspiration process is positive. It leads to a lot of growth for the INFJ. Otherwise, Carl Jung would never have left the house. He would shut himself in, writing completely incomprehensible words that nobody would ever understand, and he would probably be completely forgotten. The INFJ's desire to make their world, their inner dreams, their inner moral, their thoughts, a part of society is what makes the INFJ an extroverted feeling type. And the fact that he never saw himself as an extroverted feeler is only a sign of how he saw that he had to work on it. I think his idea was that I need to, and I saw this in a lot of his arguments and in a lot of his history, that he was always very much going through an existential crisis. He was always very much confused about what his role in the world was, what he was meant to do, what he should do, what was the right thing to do. And of course, you can't solve this question with introverted thinking alone. But still, the question of which type Carl Jung was is up to you. He never took an MBTI test, the MBTI can't tell, and the MBTI probably sees his type and what it means to be his type completely different than for what he sees it. The interesting discussion is, what was Carl Jung's real opinion on all of this? Because today I find that a lot of his work has been misinterpreted.